and you slowly become that character. But I mean, I think you have to be very careful you don't lose yourself. You don't want to become the crazy actor we've all heard stories about. You don't want to become a problem. So I think it's a fine balance. But yeah, method acting, you just get to lose yourself completely, and I absolutely love that. It's my favorite part about acting.
Well, and I would imagine you have to do a little bit of research on the character attitude, or how this character is going to develop so that you can immerse yourself. Is that about right?
Yeah, I spent just like half a year before shooting, just getting into discovering the character, and I think that's how it works. It worked well for me. You just slowly discover little bits and pieces it's kind of like discovering who you are as a person, but you're discovering a different person. It's hard to explain, but yeah.
Well, that's a good point, because I remember, if I don't know if you guys do, but in the film Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, that was written by Hunter S. Isn't that an incredible film? And a great book, by the way. But I remember when Johnny Depp was mentioning after the production that he actually lived with Hunter S. Thompson at his owl farm out there in Colorado for 6 months, just to get him down of what his character is like, his attitude, and where he's coming from, before he could even attempt to play that character of the crazy gonzo journalist in the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I thought that went way beyond the Call of Duty, when he's actually living with Hunter S. Thompson for 6 months.
Man, I would love to live. I wish I could have had that opportunity. That would have been absolutely incredible. Absolutely love the movie. I think Johnny Depp is an incredible actor. There's a ton that actors can learn from his style, and he doesn't have any formal training when it comes to acting. He's learned the hard way how to get into characters, and even way back in his early days, he was like a telemarketer or something, and he would way before he was an actor, he would practice different character voices, and he would just have fun on the phone. So he's got an incredible story.
Oh, that's a fascinating background that I hadn't heard of. Interesting. So even Johnny Depp had a beginning somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, don't we all? Well, let me ask you this. If either one of you were in a position to direct a superstar, how would you go about preparing yourself for being involved with someone who is a heavyweight actor, an A-lister, and having to deal with them?
Oh man, you know what? I gotta say, so if I was the director of a film project, I would love to work with Kate Blanchett, Helen Mirren, Johnny Depp, any one of them. But when we're working with an A-lister, they're incredible. They're insanely talented. So I don't think they require, a lot of directing. The stories that I've heard of directors that have worked with A-listers is, you tell them what your vision is, and then, they're hired to bring that character to life. And most of them won't sign on to do a project if they're not interested in it or they don't think they can pull it off. So I think, just letting them run with it, have fun. They're geniuses. There won't be really any directing as far as that goes.
Well, yeah, and that is very similar, I think, the way you're describing it, to the stories I've heard of, for instance, Katharine Hepburn in her later years, particularly when she was working on the movie On Golden Pond, with Henry Fonda. I remember that at one point she was wanted to be so involved in the pre-production and even the writing of the script that they had to politely tell her that the director was actually in charge.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard a lot of stories, yeah, like that, yeah.
And believe it or not, I understand that Christopher Reeve was a real good friend of Katharine Hepburn, and it was kind of interesting how those two people actually, with generations apart from each other, actually, enjoyed each other's company and admired each other's work as well. So, I love these stories, you guys. So anything that you've got that you want to share as we go through our interview tonight, please feel free to jump in. I would imagine that. Go ahead. You got one?
Sure. I was going to say something that's really interesting is how we got the idea to make Mount Adams, the original film. So just to kind of put this in perspective here, we have two projects going on. We have the feature film drama about Mount Adams, which we filmed a couple of years ago, and we're editing that right now. And then we have a documentary we're doing later on this year about the real-life phenomenon at Mount Adams. But if we go back in time a little bit to after we got done with the Manifest movie, we were trying to figure out where to go from here. And so Tim and I went up to Snow Peak, and we were thinking about, okay, what's some inspiring stuff, that maybe we could think about in terms of making a film on. And, one of the things that came to our mind was the trip we took up to Mount Adams back, God, how many years ago was that now? Maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Would that be about right, Tim?
Yeah, I was a young whippersnapper.
Yeah, so we used to do a lot of investigations about the Yakima lights, which are it's kind of like an orb light phenomenon that happens along the Yakima River and some other areas in central Washington, eastern Washington. And it's these, I don't know I guess the best way to describe it is just an orb of light that seems to float up above rivers and along some of the areas out there. And so we went with a scientist from Portland, and we would hang out there, spend a few nights near Benson City, in the Tri-Cities area. And we used to, just camp out there along the river and bring our night vision and just watch what was going on. And as a matter of fact, at one time, Tim, you actually saw something.
I did, yeah. You know what? As investigators and filmmakers, I have to say, going out in the field and and just experiencing these the lights, or whether you're hunting for Bigfoot or looking for UFOs, the experiences are just. It's amazing inspiration when it jumps over to our filmmaker side, and like Phil was saying, the stuff that we've seen, I was up there and I looked behind and I saw this orb of, just this light, and it just shot down from the sky, and it skidded along the ground. It came and just, shot right up back in the sky and just completely disappeared. I was very skeptical before we went up there, but it was like, what did I just see? And coming back, it's it's just, as an artist and a creative person, that's the kind of stuff that I feed off of, I live for.
Well, I'll bet that sounds like quite a dramatic sighting yourself. Now, let me ask you, as an investigator of anomalous aerial activity myself, being on the UFO I-Team, if you, for instance, were looking at this object and held your hand out at arm's length, maybe stuck your thumb up at arm's length, would this thing have been bigger than your thumb at that point, or would it have been small enough that your thumb would cover it?
I would say, about the tip of your thumb. So about, about maybe half of your thumb. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is it came down in front of a telephone pole. so I could actually sort of, gauge the distance. It wasn't like, way far away, like, oh, it's a far off airplane or ultralight. No, this thing was like close to the road. So that was, I haven't seen anything like it again. That's for sure.
Yeah. And this telephone pole, how long or how far away do you suppose that was from you?
Oh, you'd probably have to ask Phillp. He was there too. I have no sense of like how far away objects are. Terrible, yeah. So I'll jump over for Phillp for that one.
I would say from my perspective, the distance from where we were camped out to that telephone pole was probably about maybe 200 yards. Would that be about right? Tim, you think about 200 yards or so?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Yeah.
About the length of 2 football fields, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. If it was the length of 2 football fields away, and it was about at least the half size of your thumb, that is quite a large object, obviously.
It was.
Because
it definitely scared me.
Because the distance. That's the factor that's hard to tell when you see a light in the night sky. You don't know how far away it is, so you don't know how big it would be. So that's fascinating. Now, did you happen to hear any noise or any disturbance at that point when you saw it?
No, actually, no, I didn't. I mean, I don't have very good hearing anyway. But no, I don't remember there wasn't any sort of like, buzzing or, on a, like, frequencies, or there's nothing off. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything. I just, we're looking around and I happened to glance behind me, and I know it was closer than 200 yards because it was in front of the telephone pole. So, it's somewhere between 200 yards, somewhere a little closer, definitely, obviously closer than that. But yeah, no, I mean, nothing, other than what I saw, there was nothing else that was out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. Of course, when you witness something like that with your own eyes, all of a sudden the entire universe of ramifications kind of open up, and you get a bigger perspective on actually your own person and how you fit in with things, don't you?
Oh yeah, I mean it's crazy. As a teenager, I was like, "Oh my God, I guess I don't know everything." Yeah, that's obviously one of the realizations we all get to when we get older. It's got, the older I get, probably the less I know, right? That is true, and now I just live every day to just learn something new.
Yes, and also, Tim, I wanted to ask you this question: having this post-production experience in editing and effects and all those kinds of things, does that give you a better frame of reference in actually creating the product in the first place before it gets to you?
Creating the product in the first place before it gets... can you rephrase the question a little bit?
Yeah, for instance, when you're writing a script, when you're maybe out there and your brother is directing, and kind of what you're going to be needing to do with the post-production work, I bet that colors your abilities at that point to probably get the thing done right the first time.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it really works as far as development, because I can sort of help gauge, a time budget, for how long stuff is going to take. So I'm not going to put in something, that's, too crazy, because, I'm just, pretty, at this point, I'm the only visual effects, guru, if you could use that term, on, that's working on the film at this moment. So yeah, it's like you have to make sure that you don't throw too much on your plate. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would imagine that, Phillp, you probably get that benefit of your brother's post-production knowledge during your directing as well to kind of do it.